Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of A Few Short Minutes, the pod, where I just want to remind you it literally takes just a few short minutes a day to rewire your brain for a better life. You guys, today we have Deirdré Taylor. And let me tell you a little bit about Dee. First of all, she's coming to us from Cape Town, South Africa. She is a business owner, wife, and mother to three amazing boys. She's also an intuitive empathic healer trained in various healing modalities. I definitely want to dive into that. She has her own business, Deirdré Taylor Executive Business Services. It is a business process outsourcing company. So she has a team of virtual assistants, and they remotely support business owners with strategy and implementation services. Through her business initiatives, Deirdre's why is strongly linked to achieving the objectives of the My Child Has Cancer Trust. It is a nonprofit organization based in South Africa, in Cape Town in particular, that she co founded in 2011 as a result of her own family's journey with a childhood diagnosis. Dee, thank you for so much for being here. And tell me a little bit about yourself. I did yours, like the rote one. So tell me more about you.
Okay. Hi, it's Stacey. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I want to just preface this by saying that the person that you see here today speaking to you as freely as I do was not the person I was in 2009, 2010, before my kid got sick. And so if you needed to know anything about me, you need to know that that was the experience that changed the trajectory of my life. You know, as a child, as a young child, I always knew that I wanted to be serving people. But circumstances and situations occurred that took me in a completely different direction. And I was working a corporate job, and I loved every minute and everything about my job. That's just the kind of person that I am. But there was, as my boss would have told you, has said in my what do they call it, a referral letter or reference letter, was that there was a bigger calling. There was something bigger that needed to be done. And so, like many entrepreneurs that were in corporate, that had a job before, um, I took that leap of faith, and I decided that this was it, and I needed to get back on track, because that's what my kid being ill meant for me. The lesson in that for me, I can say all these years later, there was a lesson. I wouldn't have wanted to hear that from anyone if they told me that while I was in the throes of it. So don't
Got
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
Never tell people there's a lesson, there's a reason, blah, blah. No, we're not ready to hear that. We're busy fighting, making sure that sail
For their
on that ship.
lives. We're
We're
literally
just
fighting
busy.
for their lives.
Correct,
Don't tell me
exactly.
there's a lesson
So,
right now. I can't see
exactly.
anything but what's going on
Can't
with my kid.
deal, not interested.
No, I don't have
Tunnel
the time.
vision, eye on the prize. Guess what? My kid's looking at me for strength, for security. My kid looks to me to see how am I reacting to what's happening to them. And
Right.
so all these years later, this was in 2009, we're in 2024, all these years later, I can now speak about it from a different perspective. And it's only because all these years later, the puzzle pieces came together, and it's not something that if we're not open to that, we may have missed that opportunity. But I certainly found my calling in what happened to my kid. And I think for me, in many ways, it was the shake up for my wake up, as the woo-hoos
I love a good woo
people would
woo.
say.
I love a good woo
It
woo.
was the
So,
shake up for my
yeah, for
wake up.
sure.
And definitely, in the words of Charles Dickens, it was the best of times, but it was also the worst of times.
Oh,
So
yeah.
again, all things in balance. It seems to me that I'm all about balance, things in balance, and maybe that's my lesson in life, learning to balance.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so I guess, yeah, I guess that's what most people that I meet, they don't know the me of before, but I need to honor the me of before as well, because if she didn't step up to the plate and take the, I call it the blue pill. I mean, take the pill for out of the matrix.
Right.
It takes courage. And if anyone watches this, if what they're going through is a point of not feeling courageous to do anything, I think our stories can attest to the fact that when we took action and we were courageous, we there was progress, and one small step is all it takes for you to be act courageously every single day.
Yeah.
And for me, I saw that in my son. I saw that in how my son navigated cancer at the age of 5 years old. And that when every time I'm afraid since then, I think back to that moment and I think, if he could do that,
This is
I can do
nothing
this.
compared to that.
This is nothing.
This is
You have no
nothing
idea
compared to
how
that.
afraid I am of interviews. I back away from them, and I think I rescheduled once or twice because
Yeah.
I sort of, and then eventually I'm like, hey, you've got to do this, man, because your calling and your purpose is bigger. So I have to put myself out there. So I'm very grateful to be here and to have this opportunity to talk with you.
Yeah, we just before we hit record, you guys, um, she was sharing with me about her son who's 21 now, and that's or soon, and that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Because for those of you that don't know, this kid right here was born without an immune system. And so the equivalent to people that are going through a cancer journey or have survived is
Mm.
neutropenic, which means,
Yes.
when they do the chemo and the radiation, it kills off everything, not just the cancer, but your immune
Mm.
system as well, your gut biome. It just kills off
Mm.
everything. And so that's the constant state my kid lives in, and her
Yeah.
her child lived for a number of years in that state as well. And so we were talking about just kind of relating on that level. And yeah, I mean, that is now, unfortunately, the second worst thing that's ever happened to me. The first now was
Oh.
my brother taking his own life in 2016, and
Oh.
that superseded it. Like, definitely surpassed it, right? And yeah, I thought the thing with my son would have been like it for me, but
Mm.
unfortunately, life happens. However, it did prepare me. Um, it did prepare me in some ways, and it actually his death was my shake up to wake up,
Yeah.
because, and I think you can relate to this, Dee. In all of those years I spent caring for my son and being in fight or flight, there's
Yeah.
no there's no chill in those times,
Yeah.
like none. Um, that I lost myself completely. All I
Mm.
knew about myself was in relation to somebody else. So I was wife, mother, caretaker, advocate,
100%.
educated, getting
Mm.
educated. It was a student of the medical
Mm-hmm.
things that were happening in my kid so I could
Mm.
better advocate for him. And then I was working and, daughter, sister, friend.
Mm.
Um, I didn't know who I was at all unless it was taking care of somebody else, and especially my son. Do you relate?
Exactly. I completely relate to what you're saying. You aren't Dee, you're Ethan's mom. That's how you are referred to by each and every person
Yes.
because that's your world. That
Yes.
medical fraternity is your world. So
Yes.
it's Ethan's mom or Mrs. Taylor.
Oh, I didn't even get Mrs.
Where,
Taylor. I
you
just get
very
mom,
seldom.
mom,
Yes, 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 yes,
mom.
yes, yes.
And it's like, you
And
have
so
my name on the chart. Can you just call me
yeah,
Stacy? But no,
exactly,
you're mom.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so for a long time you in that role and you don't have that until something happens that brings you out of that. That almost it's almost so jarring that what it does is it's almost like in your face and it's like these words are saying, who the heck are you? Where are you? Are you showing up? Are you
Right.
living your life's purpose? What are you doing? And it's just that in that bold letters and you feel, I don't know if this was the same for you, but you feel almost this it's almost as though because you've come up so close to it, it's almost as though someone's pushing you eventually through it. And so you don't want to take the steps, but you have to.
Yeah, you have no
And so
choice now.
lead legs, and you move forward and you move, and eventually you just end up surrendering to whatever it is that's pushing
Right.
you. And years down the line, you realize that, you know, you can look away, you can ignore it for only so long. And then life is going to take you where you don't want to go. If that is where you're supposed to be, if you believe in God, God's going to move you in the right direction to do what it is you're supposed to do, and you're not going to be able to fight it because it's this deep-seated calling, I think, and I don't know what else to call it. It's just so deep, and you just know that you have to do it whether you like it or not, and you just end up doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that because when I went to college, I fully intended on being a therapist, like an LMFT.
Mm,
Um, and I intended to go, take a year or two off and then go get my master's. Um, and I ended up getting married and having my son instead, and still was like, okay, I can do, he's little, I can do the mom thing,
mm,
I can do the school thing, not a big deal. And about 3 months of age, life changed.
mm.
At 9 months of age, life changed again. And then at 23 months, life changed again. That's when we actually got his
Gosh.
diagnosis. So I almost lost him
Ah.
twice in
Oh
that
wow.
time, um, under doctor's care. Still almost lost him because
Mm,
he's so rare. They didn't know what they were looking for or looking at.
mm,
And
mm.
so I never ended up getting my master's because now my role completely pivoted and I had to stay underemployed in pay the bills
Mm.
jobs versus passion jobs, soul jobs, right? Because
Yes.
I could only take jobs that didn't need me if I had to
Yes.
leave, or he was sick and I couldn't come in, or so I just had to stay in
Yeah.
serving positions. I mean, hotel,
Yeah.
restaurants, stuff of that nature. And it was my brother's death in 2016. I fell into a very deep, deep, deep depression. And
Mm-hmm.
it took me 2 years to come out of it. And then after that 2 years, I was like, okay, it's my time now. It's
Yeah.
my I have
Yeah.
to. I have to.
Yeah.
So yeah, lead legs, but I was definitely getting pushed forward. Um,
Absolutely.
and yeah, unfortunately, it
Absolutely.
took a huge, thing of my brother
Yeah.
unaliving himself to move
Exactly.
forward. Yeah.
Exactly. You're talking about jobs and all of that, and I think that's where when my kid got ill, I had a very supportive. I was working in a big corporate. Actually, it was an international company, working in a big corporate company, and the leader that I had was someone who basically said to me, you do what you need to do for your family. I'm getting you a laptop. I'm getting you this. You work from the
Wow.
hospital. And Stacy, in our country, I don't know about in the US, we get 36 days sick leave over the 3 year period. So that's about 12 days a year that we're allowed to be off ill, and get paid for that. And then we get sort of annual leave, and that's about 20 to 25, depending on how many years of service you have. Some people even have 15. And then we have 3 days family responsibility leave. So that is if your kid gets sick or death or whatever that is. And for him to have done that for me, it gave me a sense and an experience of what that could look like.
Mm,
um, and so I'm a mom of a sick kid, and I have to be in and out of hospital all the time. I cannot be at work all the time, and this is what I have. And in
mhm.
direct contrast to that, I see so many other women being the caregivers of the primary caregiver of their kid. Families are having to lose an income because one has to give
Yep.
up their work. Like you say, you can't have a proper job because anything can change, anything can happen, and all of that. And at the time that I was going through it, I didn't understand why I was going through what I was going through. Many years later, in reflection, I can see, I could see what was why I had to experience that. We know they say, they say that some people stand in front and they, in front of the queue, in front of God, and they say, I want boobs and I want a butt and I want, muscles if I'm a guy, I want, I want a good physique, whatever. I think I stood in front of the queue for life lessons. I think you may be with me, maybe you were ahead of me or behind me. Life lessons.
Man. Yeah,
It
whatever
is.
contract I signed before coming into this
Oh,
body. Ugh.
I tell you, it is my experience in almost everything that I do that inevitably ends up helping others. So, because I have walked the journey, I'm able to support people in a different way. And
Yeah.
they're able to resonate with me because of the fact that inevitably, I've experienced something someone has, is now experiencing. And that's why I say that there must have been a couple of us that stood in front and said, give us life experience because we will do that for people on this earth. you
Yeah.
know.
Ugh.
And so when I did leave my job then in my corporate in 2014, at the end of 2014, I then left it to basically go and walk the journey as a full-time support to families of children with cancer like me. So in 2011, um, myself and some other moms, two other moms, we co-founded the organization. And so we were sort of part-time, when they say help one person at a time, that type of thing. We sort of helped people. We met with people through the hospital and all of that, but on a part-time basis. So we'd go weekends or we'd go public holidays or even on leave days, we'd go visit the hospital, meet people like us and just offer that emotional support kind of thing. Um, and eventually I couldn't any longer. So this is 2014. I then stayed. So my son finished. So I stayed about 4 extra years. And it was out of loyalty to my then boss. And so as I walked this journey for about a year, 18 months, as volunteering for the organization, I got to get insight into so much. And that's where I decided, hang on, I'm going to start because I needed an income for myself. I'm going to be a virtual assistant. Didn't know what that all meant. All I knew was I was going to work remotely, which I then did, and I can work on my own time. I can work at night. I can work whenever,
Right. Yeah.
because I want the flexibility to visit and connect with people like me. And after about 18 months or so, what I'd experienced, I saw how it all fit together. And so that's when I then, ironically enough, I registered a business in 2008, September 2008, a couple of months before my kid was diagnosed with cancer. And in 2015, 16 is where I put the picture together and say, hey, hang on a minute. I registered an organization, almost like it was meant to be kind of thing. And as that sort of evolved, I then ended up further further along. So by 2018, it was around 2018 or so, where the vision became so much clearer. I'm now my boss that supported me for other people. So
Man.
I use the moms and sisters, even of age and so forth, to support me in my virtual assistant business, and so they are able to generate an income and care for their families. Who would have thought?
Mm.
They don't have to be this charity case, or they don't have to suffer as much because of the little bit of something that I can offer them. And that's why I do my
Wow.
business is virtual. I
Yeah.
specifically work more as an online business manager, and I've got a team of VAs that support me. That's how I've now transitioned all these years later, but I didn't know that at the time. And all I did was I followed a dream, because in 2009, I had the inkling that I needed to do something. And I got the distinct feeling and impression that I needed to just wait until my time is up. And so I waited. And in June 2010, I had a physical dream. I had a dream. I thought I was alive. I thought it was real. When I woke up, I was crying because I really wanted it to be true. I wanted the dream to be real. And I woke up with the name of the organization. I had an idea in terms of how it should work and operate and all of those. And all I did was I just followed. When I followed, I just took the steps I needed to do. And the message in the dream was actually it was actually quite surreal. For every, because I'm the kind of person who's going to think about everything that happens around something. And for every but that I had, the message was clear. Just do it. It will be okay. And I'm going to tell you now, we are now in 2024. This was in 2010. It's 2024. It has always been okay. Yes, I've doubted. Yes, I have had doubts. I think it's that human part of me. It's the human part of me that think about the human stuff. And then I get fearful and I doubt and everything. But then I promise you, as true as Bob, someone comes or something happens and it reminds me of that dream, that it will be okay. And all I have to do, and what I know that I have to do, is I need to trust the process. I need to go with it. I need to put my faith and trust. I need to be like Peter. I need to eye on Jesus, eye on the prize. Don't look at the fact that I'm walking on water, because when I look down, that's when I struggle. And so that for me, it's been very much that lesson in trust and having faith, in trusting and having faith. It seems to have been one of the lessons that I needed to learn. I'm not perfect at it. None of us are. I don't think anyone can be to that extent, you know. But it's certainly it sounds horrible to say this, but I wouldn't want to change it for the world. If I could just take my kids' experience out of it, and the experience of the family as a whole, and if I could have just experienced that myself, then, in terms of
Right.
what I
Not
needed to
not it
learn.
having be your child,
Not,
but you. Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
something
Mhm.
like that. Maybe that's what I would change. But I feel that I'm happy where I am now. There's been so much. Gosh, have I grown? Have I grown?
Yep.
Have I learned things about myself and about people that I don't know if I would have experienced or learned any of that had I still been in my corporate job, doing what I was doing, not on the path of caring for people and. So yeah, it's been life changing. And I'm sure I'm sure you've had, I'm sure it's also the same from the life changing perspective.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Your boss is a unique person. In
Yes, I
America,
know.
we don't get bosses like that. In fact, my
Oh,
boss called me and said, "Are you not coming in today?" And I said,
yeah.
My son is in the ICU. He's in the ICU. He has a collapsed lung. Like, I need to be here." And he said, "Well, yeah, I get it. I want to be home when my daughters are sick too, but we really need you here." And I could not believe it,
Yeah,
to be put in that position of, here we are again, because it happened
yeah.
twice. It's take care of your kid or lose your job.
Yeah. And that's the space that most people find themselves in. And so that's why I said to you earlier, I think I was in the position, I think that I had that boss at the time. It was literally, I think, 2009. So it was about, yeah, if I had been with a previous company, that would not have been the case. It would not have been the case. And I remember my previous boss saying to me, but you're taking almost like a sideways move or something. I mean, are you sure you want to do this? And I said to her, you know what? I don't know what it is, but I know that I need to do this for my family. I knew it was for stability for my
For your thing.
family. I
That's
just
so
knew
wild.
that. And then like 4 years of, yeah, I don't even remember, 4 years or something later, um, I'm in a position where someone does that for me. But like I said, today, all these years later, I get it, because I needed to see what it could look like, what the other side of the coin could look like. And so it's all part of the development, all part of the understanding that you need in order to do some, to go further and all of that. And every day, every year, there's new revelations, and you see a little bit more of the puzzle fit together and all of that. And all you've got to do is just be open to that.
Right, you have to pay
You know,
attention and be open to that and not be
absolutely.
I I think when I was going through the really bad stuff with my
Yeah.
son, um, it was just head down. There was
Mm,
nothing else,
mm,
and I wasn't open to seeing anything else. I didn't have the capacity to do
exactly.
anything else, and, yeah, I just wonder if I had breathed a little bit during that time, how maybe things would have happened differently. Um, yeah,
I
because
think you
it's so
shouldn't
intense.
wonder. You shouldn't wonder. You needed to do that. There's certain things that we need to do when that's the case, and you need to give yourself some grace for that, because you need the tunnel vision. And I can say that because I needed it too. I didn't know that I needed it. Afterwards, I now know that I did need it.
Yeah,
you know, you still live that every day, maybe not as hectically as you did before.
thank God,
Now
you
you,
know,
yeah,
but yes,
exactly,
it's still a concern every
exactly.
day.
Exactly. So now you're able to better look at things while you're in the situation, because your kid's a little bit older as well. So it's not as bad as,
Yeah,
I don't want to
right.
make it
Yes.
sound inconsequential, but it's not as bad as when maybe he was 3 months old, or, because he couldn't look after himself. One of the biggest things that we as parents of sick kids, one of the biggest things for us is that we are their advocates when they are so young, because oh my gosh, the things that happen. I mean, I can tell you horror stories of,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
things that we take for granted, things that happen to people, where, for example, moms would sit at the bed, would not want to leave the bedside of their child, and everyone would say, oh, but there's nursing staff. Yes, there's nursing staff, but there's also nursing staff. And there's some nursing staff, people don't do the job for the same reasons, and for the same, the passions or whatever. Some people just do it because it's a job, and that's what it is. And so something like, I need to make sure that the blood is the same name as my child's name, because those type of
Can't
things do
read.
happen, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It happens. So that we are our kids, they cannot speak for themselves, and so you need to be that. And you cannot be everything to everybody. If you're in that role, when you're in that role,
Yeah,
you are mama bear. That's your job.
that's it.
That's why you are parenting this one. And so
Yeah.
you need to be there for them. So never wonder. If you could, don't wonder about that. That's not important. You did the best you could under the circumstances that you were in, and that's
Yes,
it.
I have to remind myself that that is
Yes,
true. That is
that
very
is
true.
100% true. um, and 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 when whatever, I don't know what your end, I mean, my inside was obviously end of treatment, follow-ups, and all those types of things. I mean, we going on to 21 this year in August. um, and yes, I know that doctors say that, because they are predispositioned and all those kind of things. you know I'm going to say something to anyone that needs to hear this. They are predispositioned for all kinds of things. Yes, I get it, as are many other people too. But if you are afraid, remember, we need to deal with our fears. We need to deal with the things that's fearing us. Because if you listen to what people say about the law of attraction, what we focus on, whatever, is what grows. Now, if we need to change that narrative, if you think of a mom who is who's going to be giving birth. Typically, they do a birth plan, they pre what's going to happen, blah 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 blah, right? So if you're afraid, if you have a kid with cancer, or a kid that is in remission, whatever that is, or whatever, Deal with the birth plan, create your relapse plan if that is the point. Why do we feel the way we do? Because we felt like we didn't have control.
Yeah, for
Create
sure.
the control, create the structure. If you know that, oh my gosh, if only I knew, because you came through the experience, you learned things, you learned you need to find someone who's going to take care of communication. You learned you need to find someone who's going to take care of fundraising. Get all those get all those things, speak to the people and say, please, can you good with social media, please, can you keep things updated, can you run fundraising things if this ever happens to me. Then you have a certain measure of control over the outward things that could potentially happen. And so if you get the news, you'll get the news and you won't feel as though you were knocked off the sales, or whatever that is.
Sure.
You'll know that your material needs are sort of taken care of as a family, and the kid is taken care of because of the doctors. Even that, you go through 1, 2, 3, sure, Friday diagnosis, Monday chemotherapy, no
Yeah, there's no
options,
room to breathe.
no room to think, what are my options? So if it means that you want to understand your options, then do the research now. Where are the holistic treatment facilities for this, if that's what you want to go? What are my options? What are the options available? Document them, do the research, put your birth plan away. If you ever need it, you
It's
can
there.
you can just pull it out and you can say, right, what do I have to do again? Because now you in the storm. What do I have to do?
Mhm.
Oh yes, okay, that's what I need. Okay, that's what I need. And then you know that you sort of got the structure if you need it. So you know
Right.
that the anxiety is a lot around obviously what can happen to my kid. But when I did that for myself, just sorted out the other stuff, all the other stuff, it lessened that anxiety in some way, shape, or form. And at some point, it got to the point where I'm not even thinking about that. I'm not even thinking about that type of thing anymore. Um, and so you learn somehow to really appreciate every day for the day, every moment for the moment. Um, and you get on with it. And if something happens, then you face that as if it comes on your path. But you don't linger there anymore. You don't invite the a friend of mine has a lovely analogy. Um, the the message is like the parcel that gets dropped by the FedEx. So the FedEx guy comes and knocks on the door and he says, here's a parcel for you. But what do? You invite the FedEx guy in and say, come and have some tea, sit on a couch. Eventually you go take out the sleeper couch and everything. And, you know,
Yeah,
that's what we do with emotions. We invite those emotions in and we make them live there, and so that fear just overwhelms me. And I
for
don't
sure.
want to feel overwhelmed or anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I think that's a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful piece of advice and a great analogy for
Mm.
when you don't let your feel the emotions and then let them go. If I, and I was never an anxious person. Well,
Yeah.
that's not exactly true. I didn't think I had anxiety
Mm.
until my son, um, started to have hit. We just started seeing the results of
Mm.
his not having an immune
Mm.
system, and then I got really anxious.
Yes.
And that's because I wasn't just like feeling the feeling and then let it go and go, okay, what's next? And I think, yes, if I had a birth plan at that point in time, that probably would have helped. And now I kind of already know what to do. When you
Exactly.
get sick, call this and we go to this hospital and, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. It's the
Um,
not knowing. It's the not
that
knowing.
was,
It's the fact
that
that
was
we
the
don't
roughest
know
part.
what yeah, it really is the rough part. So yeah, so anyway, it sounds so simple in the way that we explain
Right.
it and all of that, but
It's
there's
not
so
some,
much more to it and things,
yeah.
you know.
But that's a great
Um,
idea, though. I love that idea
yeah.
of having that plan in case, right? And even for ourselves, like,
Yeah.
what do people if something happened to us and we weren't here
Mm,
to advocate for our child anymore?
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you, as I am, are the only full historian in our kids' medical. histories. Like, my kid doesn't know half of
Yeah.
the things I know. So if
Yeah.
something happened to me, who's gonna provide, like, how's he
Yeah.
gonna give his history to new specialists or doctors or whatever?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think writing it down or tape, like, video I'm taping it.
Yeah. It's
I'm
like a
showing my age,
diary or
but
something, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
recording it and
Yeah.
something so they have access to that, so then they can continue to advocate for themselves
For
if we're not
themselves.
around to do that.
Well, the other day, actually, it was so funny because I had kept all the sort of scans, CT scans and X-rays and all kinds of things. And he was looking for something the other day and he came across these. And so he asked me what they were. And I said to him, oh, those were your scans and things. I've kept them because I didn't know if you'd want them one day. So I kept them. I kept little things. Um, and so I said to him, well, you are 20, and you can actually keep them with you now, so that can sort of, that's your history, that's your medical history and all of those. And later on I found him looking through it. So we've still got those big ones that we initially started with when the
Oh,
old
yeah.
day, and then eventually we transitioned to the CDs
Yep.
and
Yep.
all that. And so he was now studying these things and he was reading these reports and he was like, I didn't know this and I didn't know that. At the time that he was diagnosed, he had what they call mets on his lungs and in the bowel area and everything. So he was actually classified stage 4.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Oh,
and so he so he was reading all of these things and he was like, and so obviously we had conversation about it. We've had conversations over the years about this kind of thing, but this was now the first time that he saw the sort of the medical records of those types of things. But it's also been interesting to see his perspective on what he remembered. So, for example, he remembered things very differently to the way that I remembered them. The facts are a little bit like confused in their heads because they were still so young.
yeah.
So that was also interesting, to sort of witness. But oh gosh, let me tell you, this is my kid who lives his life to the fullest. He will do all kinds of things to experience life. And he says to me straight out, um, I need to live my life. Allow me to live my life. So my
Mhm.
husband and I, we we go with the flow. We have to go with the flow.
Yeah.
And it's hard because I mean, you know as well as I do, that there's some kind of connection between you and that sick kid, because of what they go through. So you almost
Yeah,
feel very protective over them, you know. And
for
I'm not
sure.
saying that you're not as protective over them as you are about your other kids. It's just that you understand that they needed something different. And I don't know, do you have other kids as well or just the
I
one?
do. So his
Okay.
brother is 2 years and 2 weeks
Oh.
younger than him.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So we actually
um
saved his cord blood, just in
ah
case we needed it for the
yes.
older child, and
Hmm.
that's, we've got about a year left of
Okay.
that being held.
Wow.
So I don't
Oh,
even
that,
know what
yes.
what we
Wow.
need to do with it to I
Hmm.
don't know. That's something I've
Hmm.
gotta, uh, get answers for. I
Hmm.
don't wanna lose it if I don't have to, um,
Yes.
because
Hmm.
like you said, there's all of these chances and probabilities of, him developing
Exactly.
extreme cancer. Kids like
Yeah.
my son develop, like, throat cancer, but
They,
without ever
yeah.
even smoking or any of that stuff.
And it's got to do with the way they get treated, the treatment that they receive, right? A
Some of
lot of
that,
these,
and
yeah,
because,
as well.
they because one of his major symptoms was throwing up. So
Ah, okay.
he would vomit 12 times a day, 24
Oh,
times a day.
wow. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and it's just because his body was so sick. It didn't know
Hmm.
what to do with nutrition. Um,
Hmm.
and so, things like that, like, just
Yeah.
weird cancers for
Hmm.
not a human reason, you know what I
I
mean? It's like they didn't
understand.
do it to themselves. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so,
Yeah.
um,
Gosh.
that's something
Yeah.
that I still have up here. And
Yes.
then, he's starting to look for work. And it's
Ooh,
just not as easy as, go to the local burger joint or to the local grocery store or, like that, because the exposure to
gosh.
people is concerning at that level.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
also, I don't know, when he was in school, he would miss 20 to 40 days every year of school because he would
Oh,
just pick up colds and they'd
yes.
last for 2 weeks and,
Mm.
whatever. I don't know any employer that would be okay with.
I know. I
And
know.
that's
I know.
rough.
That's very rough.
Yeah.
And so maybe a virtual job.
Exactly. No, that's
Maybe a
what I'm trying
virtual,
to.
you'll have to do gaming or
Yep.
IT, virtual kind of support.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so lonely for them as well,
It is terribly,
I mean, they
terribly
miss
lonely.
that whole social aspect of,
Yeah, he
yeah,
did.
yeah,
He
it's
did.
not
And
easy.
my heart hurts for him for that. For
When
sure.
my son was ill, you reminded me of this now. When he was ill, and we also had obviously had the neutropenia, and because he wasn't seeing people, because we had to keep him out of school and all those types of things. And so when we eventually did go out, and he was okay from a accounts perspective, then he would be over kids. He'd almost like hug them, hang on them, and kids didn't like that. And so and they don't understand that, and so he was very clingy, and all that kind of stuff. It just roughed them up.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, they really miss that social aspect of things. I can't imagine. And I mean, I'm a very big advocate for the siblings as well, because I mean, they go through so much as a result of that, and
Yes.
they also feel as though they also feel like you give all my attention to that one. Um, and then they feel guilty because they know that one's ill. So it's this double whammy, Um,
Yeah.
I remember that one Friday afternoon, we got a phone call from the hospital. We become when you become part of the furniture at the hospital, then they will sort of call you and tell you, okay, come in, go take your blood test, go back home. It's cool because you live close
Uh-huh.
enough. We'll call you with the results, and then they'll call you, and then they say you've got to go in. And my eldest one was 7 and he was 5. And so my eldest saw us packing up and said, "Where are we going?" And he said to him, "We're going to hospital." And then my eldest asked me, "Are you taking, is mommy taking?" Oh, he asked him, "Is mommy taking you?" And he said, "Yes." So he said, "Can't dad take you?" And I mean, this is 7 and 5-year-old. And I'm like watching this and I'm thinking, as I'm
Yeah.
busy packing, and the 5-year-old says, "No, I want mommy." And the eldest says, "But mommy's our mommy too."
Oh, baby.
Oh my gosh, that
Oh,
was like
baby.
OMG. And then that was when the sort of the light bulb went on, and I realized that we were so focused on the sick kid, we forgot about sort of the other kids and what their needs would be. And I mean, that's where we changed it up. And so even in the organization, as part of the organization, it's about the whole family. It's not just about the sick kid, because the sick kid gets the care and things at the hospital. And so we incorporated the siblings in what we do, and we treat them the
Yeah.
same. And that's very important. That's very important for the work that the organization does, of course. Um, and so, yeah, and so I'm, I, I mean, I'm literally living my dream. I'm literally living my dream. Um, and my business supports that dream. My business it's an extension of making sure that that dream can come to reality, with the organization can care for the families like us. And so failure, not doing a good job, none of that is even tolerated where I'm concerned, because the price is too high. If we don't do a good job with our clients, with anyone, the price that we pay is that we can't support the organization, in terms of the financial resources that we're able to give them through part of the work. Um,
You
Yeah.
became the organization that you needed when your son was in the thick of it,
100%.
and I
Yes.
became the coach that I wish I knew existed
I love
when I was
it.
in the middle of it.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think, Stacey, there was a reason our paths crossed.
Oh, I believe that. Absolutely. Absolutely, I believe that.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, yeah.
So
Wow.
Dee, I want you to talk about your business because you have said some amazing things. First of all, you put a business in place when you had no like business plan or idea, which is
Yeah,
very strange. And then a few more years later, you got another piece of the puzzle, and a few more years later, you got another piece of the puzzle. I
yeah.
mean, talk about trusting the process. That if that doesn't show that, I don't know what does. And then you said
Uh,
also that you employ people like you who
yeah,
have medically fragile children, or maybe they're not 100% themselves, and
yeah,
because you know what it's like to have to make that choice.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so talk about your business team, and what you do,
yeah,
so people listening or watching can maybe contact you if they need
yeah.
help in that kind of way.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. So, like I said, 2008, I had an opportunity to register a business and I did it. And I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I just knew that I needed to do it.
Wow.
um, and like I mentioned, as it evolved, I started to see how it links to the organization. So, all the clients that I basically sign up to work with me or to work with me and my team kind of thing, there is a donation that goes to the organization for that. And the reason for that is because in the dream, the dream said that our organization needed to be different. Too many organizations have a lot of donor funds going towards salaries and operational costs. So
Yes.
my business needs to be able to fund the operational costs of the organization so that
Wow.
donor funds can go 100% to the beneficiary programs. So that's already that's why I must grow my business. So
Yes.
that's the reason I must grow my business. There is no other choice. And
So, just to
so,
kind of draw a parallel here, we know the Red Cross, like the Red Cross is
yes,
international, and it's
yes.
only 25% of whoever donates goes to actually help the people that they help.
Only
75%
25?
goes to salaries and operational
Oh,
costs and
wow.
buildings and all of that stuff. It's only 25%. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. And that
Okay.
is just abhorrent when you think about it.
Yeah. So, yeah. So in the dream, the dream basically and yeah, I believe that it was God, Jesus, whoever, from my perspective, it's like God. I believe that it was God who spoke with me. It actually looked like the image of what people say Jesus looked like. And I was propped in bed, and he came from the door, and he came around and sitting. You know, when you visit someone who's ill and you sit on the bed and you put you run your hand on their, or like their hand or whatever, in the caring nature, and that was how the conversation took place.
Wow.
And the thing, when I woke up from the dream, it was the name of the organization. And it was that aspect of it that I remembered from the dream, and the fact that it would be okay. And that aspect is a very important aspect. And it was that's the differentiator. And I didn't know how that was going to happen because I couldn't see it. I mean, everyone else, it happens, people, the salaries get paid, and, from that before donor. And so that's an important one. And so I need to remember that. And so, because I haven't always been faithful, I haven't always trusted, and haven't trusted as quickly. And even
It's
though,
hard. It's
even though
hard
it, when I do, and then it's like, why didn't I do this sooner? So
because you're
yeah,
human.
so yeah, so that's an important thing. So my business, I need to focus on my business, and I need to focus on growing my business, because in growing my business, there's two things that happen, three things. Obviously, I'll make money, but the more important things are the fact that I'm able to help others like me, so other moms, well, I've got a sibling who's helping me because they are like, graduated already. Other moms or siblings, anyone in that children's cancer arena, anyone sort of grannies, moms, dads, whatever that is. If they've got the skill that I need, then I can help them. I can find the work and I can get my team to support me to deliver the work, so I don't have capacity issues.
Sure.
Um, and then so yeah, yeah. And so that's a very important indicator. So every client that signs up to work with my business, there's that donation that happens. Um, and the service is delivered by myself or one of the people who are part of my team. And I take them almost on a rotational basis. So sometimes people don't have the extensive skill as I do, for example.
Sure.
So I work with them and I help them, and then I give them the work to cement their understanding and their learning and all of those types of things.
Right.
And then we move on, and they can also, and then I'll train the next two people because I can only do so much with myself.
You're one
And
person.
then one person. And what I do then with them is that they're able to then not only support me, but they can support others. So they can then also, if they want to, which one of them decided to do, have their own business. And then I basically outsource to them as part of my contractual thing with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do it in whichever way works for them as well. But all the work is basically with my oversight and, and my intervention and all of that type of thing.
Sure.
And so that's how I build this little web that we can support people, business owners, and really it's simple things such as email management, calendar setting, if that's what people want and they don't like automated tools, all the way through to the more complicated things, which I then get involved in very much so, is strategy sessions with clients. Typically, they don't have a team. They've worked with a business coach or whatever that is, and they know what it is and why they're doing it and the what. They don't always know the how, and because I've got tech skills, tech background, it's very easy for me. So I help coaches with launching their courses, whatever that is that they need, email marketing stuff, it's just everything. It's all kinds of things. And I think that if I look back now, I think it was all part of the plan, because when I started my career, I have been wherever I've had to go. I've just learned everything. I love learning. And so people often ask me things and they're like, where did you learn that? And I said, no, because of this. And I've never been afraid. I'm not afraid to ask questions, and I'm not afraid when I chat to a client and I haven't done anything before. I am very transparent in that. I'm the first person to tell everybody if I made a mistake, because I believe transparency gets you,
Sure.
being transparent about things. But it doesn't take me long to figure things out, because, as you know, if you've worked on one of those systems, they are the same. They are the same. All those systems are the same. So yeah, yeah, and then I've got relationships. I've got relationships with like referral partners that will do things that I don't necessarily do. Like I don't do ad campaigns and things like that, but I have referral partners that work with me, and then through the fact that they work with me within the client, they also give a donation to the organization.
Very
So it's
cool.
all built around the organization.
Mm.
It's all built around the organization.
So talk about the nonprofit for a minute,
Yeah, yeah,
because I want people to know what kind of help is out there for them, in that
yeah,
capacity as well.
yeah. So obviously in our country, we are based in Cape Town. A huge component of the support that we end up giving people is actually emotional support. It's like peer groups. We are peers. We are peer groups, and because we have walked in the shoes of someone that has gone through this is people resonate. So I remember when someone came into the hospital room and they introduced themselves and they said that they were this, that, and the other, I'd look at them and I'd be nice. When I walk into a hospital room, or one of the people of the organization works into the hospital room and they introduce themselves and they say that my child had cancer, they invite you to sit. It's a total different, it's a total
It's an
different
immediate
conversation.
connection, which
It's an
we
immediate,
felt when
it's an
we
inherent,
talked about it before
absolutely.
the recording. We just, "Oh,
Absolutely.
I know
We
what your life
know.
was like for a few
We
years."
know. And
Mhm.
there's a big difference between someone being a counselor supporting you and someone talking from. Sometimes we just don't want to speak to the medical people. We want to speak to the people who understand what we're going through
Right.
because you've been there. Stacey, it's so funny. I've got a client that I've been working with now since November 21. Yeah, I think it's 21. Um, and we connected through in a Facebook group, and she scheduled a discovery call, what people typically call a discovery call, with me, and we were chatting and everything, and I was just explaining. I didn't say anything. I just said that this is what I'm trying to do, the mothers of sick kids and all of those types of things. A little bit later, she says to me that her child was actually also ill at some point and whatever, and she says to me the child had cancer. And I said to her, mine too. We are, I don't want to say, I don't know. There was just an instant connection there as well. And so, I mean, we now do all kinds of things together. We do client stuff and then we do personal development stuff. I'm very much, I've always been this person where I can compartmentalize that very well. Business is business and play is play. It's very different and it's very important. So the organization, what we do, it really is, like I said, lots of connect with each other. We sort of, what we have is like a three-leaf clover situation. So we've got the parent who's going through it. And then on either side of that, we've got the parent who has been, both parents have been there before, and you're going to know what I mean. You're already thinking what I can see you thinking. Parent who's been there before, who's lost a child, a parent who's been there before that's in survivor mode, and so that parent never feels alone any step of the way. We build that relationship as a three leaf clover
Oh, that's
because
so
we
wonderful.
don't know where that's going to lead. And so it's the real thing is about creating a sense of belonging for people like us, and giving people that safe space. And then outside of that, it extends obviously to the fact that then locally, in our communities and things, we have got certain challenges. And so we enlist the help of donors to help us with, for example, providing for people for meals or whatever that is, if they,
Yeah.
financial gains and all of those types of things. But one of the best things, it's all about connection. It's really all about connection. And so in person here in Cape Town, we host events because it's a sense of belonging. So when everybody meets, it's like a whole family gets together. And annually, we usually have a family day, and the family day usually happens in December, and we have up to 500 people on the day. We
Oh my
host
gosh.
500 people on the day. So remember,
How
this is mom,
wonderful.
dad, sick kid, siblings, no other people, because we said we can only do that.
Yeah.
And we have survivor families, we have in treatment families, and we have families of children that have passed. You stay part of the community for as long as you want, because there are challenges post losing a child. You
Yeah.
experience challenges post survivorship. There are
Yeah.
survivor issues. So we don't stop, and that's what's also different. Lots of organizations cut you off after you sort of, you're done now.
Yeah, past this arbitrary point.
Now. Kind of thing. And so I often see it as, and this is one of the ways, one of the things that came through. It's like a traffic circle, and so the real vision, the real dream for the organization is for us to build a center a healthcare facility like they have overseas, because I'll tell you now, and have that available here for our cancer kids, for our families, so that families can be with families, a community. I don't know if it's going to be a farm with a whole lot of what they call bungalows, where families can be
Yeah.
while the kids getting treatment. We'll have school, we'll have all these things available.
Yeah.
But the treatment facility is not a hospital. It's not a normal hospital. It's a research facility. Our families, we have lots of poor people in South Africa. And only families who can afford to pack up and even go overseas to get into trials overseas and get given the opportunity to try something different. I want that here. I want that for our communities here. I want that for the poor people who live in the shacks. I want them to have options other than we're sending you home because there's nothing more that we can do. I don't
Yeah.
want that. I want our local children to have more than one option. I want our local families to have more than one option, and I'm going to work as smartly and as hard as I can to make that dream a reality, because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's why I went through what I did, for my experience to be something that is there to help others like me. And so that
Oh my gosh.
is what I want.
I mean, Dee, I love what you've done. I love what you have planned. Um, there is something so beautiful that has come out of such a trauma,
Exactly.
and a tragic time in your life. And
Yeah.
I just think it's wonderful how you got the gift and opportunity out of that, which is something we don't see while we're in it. But now you've got
No.
this, okay, starting in 2008 when you registered for a business that you didn't even have. You
Yeah.
didn't even know what it was.
I
And
didn't.
now here we're, in 2024 and you're like, this is
Yeah.
this is what's next. And I just,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so wonderful.
And that's why I'm so grateful for people like you that give me the opportunity. I don't often do it, and I know I should do it more, but it's still that part of me that doesn't like to be out there so visible. But I put those gremlins must go to the side when I need to get over myself. And so I'm so grateful for people like you that give people like me the opportunity to talk about things.
It's my absolute
um,
pleasure. My absolute pleasure.
um, you know it's yeah, that's the gift that you bring to my business and my experience. And so I've got no doubt, I have no doubt that there's something that we got to do, and I'm not sure what it is, but I feel that there's something.
I'm I'm
uh,
absolutely down. Whatever presents
yeah,
itself for
I think
between.
yeah, I think we should remain open to what it feels like it's going to be huge.
Oh my
um,
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm
okay.
so excited
Um,
about that.
yeah.
So tell
Okay.
everybody where they can find you, and
Oh yes.
especially if they happen to be from South Africa and are in the process,
Yeah.
or maybe lost the child and they just want the
Yeah.
support, how they can contact you.
Yeah. So I am available on WhatsApp. I have a WhatsApp number +2782565060. My website is www.deirdretaylor.co. I have a very different spelling to my name. I've got two R's. So that would be DEIRDRE Taylor, TAYLOR.co. Um, and those are and then I'm on LinkedIn as well, and Facebook, but I'll just give you those. If you are someone that's looking to speak to someone who gets you, um, I'm happy to speak to anyone that needs to be gotten.
I absolutely agree and understand that for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So all of that will be linked in the description below, you
Okay.
guys. And so please, if this calls to you, if you resonated with this conversation today, reach out to Deirdre, reach out to me. My contact info is in my channel anyway, because we know, we
We
understand
know.
on a different level what it is to have a medically fragile child, and you're not alone. And I know when I was going through it, I felt very alone. I felt
Yes.
very alone, and I don't want that to be the norm for families like ours. And so, reach out to her, reach out to me, whatever. Leave a comment below if you've got questions, and I'll have Deirdre come back and answer. And yeah, I didn't even get to the cool, like, not the coolest, but another cool aspect of Deirdre, which
Oh,
is her being an empathic healer and
oh
intuitive. And
yes.
so I would love for you to come back and talk about how you
Ah,
discovered those gifts, how you used them, and yeah, have that kind of conversation too. If you feel
awesome.
inclined to donate, contact her, even if you're not in South Africa. I'm sure she won't say no. And yeah, so thank you again for coming, my friend, and sharing your story and being so vulnerable. And yeah, this is going to be a connection that's going to last a while. I have no doubt. So, you guys, thanks for coming for another amazing interview with A Few Short Minutes, the pod. And I just want to remind you again, it takes literally only a few minutes a day of mindfulness, of meditation, of
Mm.
active meditation, of breathing, of I mean, there's a million modalities to get there, but you can physically rewire your brain for a more positive outlook on life on it. And if you need help with that, um, you know where to find me. So thanks for coming, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you again, Dee, so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stacey.
All right, you guys have a great day. I love you.